Welcome back to Top 10 Amazing Facts. Today, we're heading to the bottom of the world, the South Pole. This frozen desert is even harsher than the North Pole, but it's also home to incredible science, history, and some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. Stick around until the end for a fascinating bonus fact that might just surprise you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you never miss another episode. Number 10. Exactly where is the South Pole? The South Pole sits at 90 degrees south latitude, right in the middle of the continent of Antarctica. Unlike the North Pole, which is floating sea ice, the South Pole rests on a thick layer of permanent ice covering solid land. In fact, the ice here is more than 9,000 feet thick, sitting on a high plateau that makes Antarctica the highest continent on Earth. The closest ocean is about 800 miles away, making the South Pole incredibly isolated. The nearest permanent base is the Amundsen and Scott South Pole Station, operated by the United States, which houses scientists and support staff year-round. Number 9. The coldest place on Earth. The South Pole is the coldest inhabited place in the world. Winter temperatures can plunge below minis 100 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 73 degrees Celsius, while summer rarely gets warmer than minus 18 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 28 degrees Celsius. The coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was in Antarctica, a staggering minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit of minus 89.2 degrees Celsius at Vostok Station in 1983. Because of the extreme cold, vehicles and machinery often fail, and humans must wear specialized gear to survive even a few minutes outside in winter. Number 8. The sun rises and sets once a year. Just like the North Pole, the South Pole experiences 6 months of continuous daylight, followed by 6 months of darkness. The sun rises around September 23rd and stays above the horizon until March 23rd, creating one endless day. Then it sets, plunging the South Pole into one endless night. During this 6-month night, the sky is pitch black, often lit only by the breathtaking aurora australis, the southern lights, which paint the sky in glowing ribbons of green, red, and purple. Number 7. A frozen desert. Despite being covered in ice, the South Pole is technically one of the driest places on Earth. Antarctica is classified as a desert with less annual precipitation than the Sahara. Snow does fall, but it's usually less than 4 inches per year. The dry air means snow that falls can linger for centuries without melting. This extreme dryness also preserves ancient ice and fossils, giving scientists a unique window into Earth's past climate. Number 6. The South Pole is higher than the North. One big difference between the poles is elevation. While the North Pole sits at sea level over the ocean, the South Pole sits on a plateau 9,300 feet or 2,835 meters above sea level. This elevation contributes to its extreme cold thin air, and high altitude mean less heat is trapped, making the South Pole harsher and less forgiving than its northern counterpart. Number 5. The South Pole has no time zones. Either, like the North Pole, the South Pole is at the convergence of all the world's longitudes, meaning technically every time zone meets there. For practical purposes, the Amundsen and Scott station uses New Zealand time, since most supplies arrive through Christchurch, New Zealand. This timekeeping helps coordinate logistics, but in reality, time at the pole is mostly irrelevant when you have 6 months of day followed by 6 months of night. Number 4. Wildlife doesn't live at the South Pole. Here's a key difference from the North Pole. There are no polar bears in the South, and in fact, no wildlife at all at the geographic South Pole. The harsh cold and lack of food make it impossible for animals to survive there. But along the Antarctic coast, life thrives: seals, whales, seabirds, and of course, penguins, which are unique to the southern hemisphere. This often causes confusion, since many people imagine penguins and polar bears together, but they actually live at opposite ends of the Earth. Number 3. It's a hub for science. The South Pole is one of the most important places for research on Earth. The Amundsen and Scott station supports projects in astronomy, climate science, and glaciology. With its clear skies and lack of light pollution, Antarctica is one of the best places in the world for space observation. One of the most famous experiments is the IceCube Neutrino Observatory, which uses detectors buried deep in the Antarctic ice to study mysterious particles from space. Number 2. No native people have ever lived at the South Pole. Unlike the Arctic, which has been home to indigenous peoples such as the Inuit, Chukchi, and Sami for thousands of years, no human population has ever called Antarctica home. The South Pole, in particular, has always been uninhabited until modern scientific expeditions began in the 20th century. The reason is simple. Antarctica's conditions are far too extreme for long-term human survival. The continent receives almost no precipitation, and the high plateau where the South Pole sits is over 9,000 feet above sea level, making oxygen levels thin. With no vegetation, no agriculture, and very limited wildlife inland, there is nothing to sustain a permanent human population. In fact, Antarctica wasn't even discovered until the early 19th century, and the South Pole itself was first reached in 1911, thousands of years after every other continent had been populated. This makes the South Pole completely unique. It's the only place on Earth where humans have never built a native culture, traditions, or settlements, a truly untouched frontier that belongs not to people, but to science and nature. Number 1. No country owns the South Pole. The South Pole and all of Antarctica is unique because it doesn't belong to any one country. Instead, it's governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, an international agreement first signed in 1959 by 12 nations, including the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom. Today, over 50 countries are part of the treaty, making it one of the most successful examples of international cooperation in history. The treaty declares that Antarctica must only be used for peaceful purposes, with a special emphasis on scientific research. That means no military bases, no nuclear testing, and no permanent territorial claims. While several countries such as Chile, Argentina, Norway, and the UK have laid historical claims to parts of Antarctica, those claims are all held in check by the treaty. At the South Pole itself, no flag owns the land. It belongs to the world, not to a single nation. Another key point is that the treaty protects the environment. Mining for minerals or drilling for oil and gas is completely banned, ensuring that the continent remains pristine and focused on science rather than profit. This is especially important because Antarctica holds vast natural resources beneath its ice and surrounding seas. So, the South Pole isn't just a frozen wasteland, it's a symbol of global cooperation, showing that humanity can come together to protect one of Earth's last untouched frontiers. Bonus fact: the first people to reach the South Pole. The race to the South Pole is one of the most dramatic stories in exploration history. Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen led the first successful expedition, reaching the pole on December 14, 1911. Just 5 weeks later, British explorer Robert Falcon Scott arrived, only to find Amundsen's flag already there. Tragically, Scott and his team perished on their return journey. Today, the South Pole is home to a small community of scientists and support staff, continuing the spirit of discovery that began over a century ago. And that wraps up 10 fascinating facts about the South Pole, one of the most extreme and isolated places on our planet. From frozen deserts to tales of survival, the South Pole is a world like no other. Which fact did you find most surprising? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another adventure here on Top 10 Amazing Facts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.